Hi, and welcome to Journey Forward with Jory Rose, where you will gain insights, tools, and inspiration to get unstuck and live your best life. Jory is a licensed marriage and family therapist with a passion for helping people cultivate awareness and authenticity so they can show up fully in all aspects of their life. And now, here's Jory.
Hi, and welcome back to Journey Forward with Jory Rose. I hope that as you listen to this, you are doing well and staying safe and being healthy, despite all that is arising in regards to the coronavirus and the shelter in place and quarantining that many of us are experiencing. As I am recording this and as this is coming live to you, we are right in the midst of the worldwide pandemic that is really bringing so many challenges for so many of us. And if any of you are being affected from this in terms of your health and illness of yourself or any loved ones, I send deep, deep, deep compassion and love and healing to all of those who are being affected medically. And even if we're not being affected from our health perspective, this is really being called upon us to face so many of the challenges in our lives as we have to be still. And we have to be quarantined from our regular daily life and habits and patterns of our work and our kids being at school and being time with our friends. And it is my true gut belief, and this is again not to discount any of the medical issues because I know that there are many people in suffering right now. So holding the space for those in suffering. And I really have this deep sense that this is the universe calling upon us, shaking us up, and asking ourselves, hey guys, something's not been working. We need to do it differently. And we all need to slow down. We need to stop the momentum of autopilot and just rushing through our lives, being distracted, not connecting with what's most important to us, which is our family and our friends, and of course our health, getting off the devices, getting back to creativity, getting back to rediscovering what's most important to us. And as I feel this call from the universe, we have a choice in how we heed that call. For many of us, the immediate response is going to be one of reaction and focusing on all that this is taking away from us. And for others, their response to this call might be one in response rather than reactivity of being able to acknowledge, yeah, you're right. You know what? Things in my life haven't been working and I need an opportunity to reset. So despite what your initial mindset is and how you're responding to all of this, I do think it's an invitation to check in with your mindset overall and really begin to practice some of the tools that have been around for centuries and thousands of years. And you know, I've said this for as long as I've been doing this work. I really believe mindfulness is the answer to everything. And I've always said, you know, whether you're sitting in traffic or dealing with cancer, the tools are the same because it's all about how you're responding and not reacting to what's arising. And if you've been listening to the podcast, I know that you've heard me say that many times before, but now it really is the chance to put that into use. So what does this actually mean? Well, I wanted to take the opportunity to talk further about how we can go about responding, not reacting, because it's typical when we are in reactivity to get stuck in our head, to get stuck in our thoughts, to not only get stuck in our thoughts, but to believe our thoughts, to get caught up in fear and anxiety of what ifs and of the unknown, to be in denial, to be in resistance, to be in judgment. It's pushing it away. That reactivity calls upon us to be utilizing defenses that may not be serving us, whether those defenses are anger or addiction or abuse, there's so many things that can come up in reactivity against this. You hear a lot of people saying, oh, this is a hoax, this isn't real, which is, I think, the ultimate form of denial and fear. So we can get really stuck in reactivity, and in that reactivity, it can do many negative things for our mood and ultimately, I believe, our health. Part of that reactivity can just be driven by fear. And we could get stuck in cycles that can deepen us into isolation in a way that's going to feel really, really disconnected. So there's so many things that come up when we are in reactivity. When we are in response to what's arising, we are self-compassionate. We are allowing. We are accepting. We are honoring all that's arising without judgment. So what's arising? Our thoughts, our emotions, how we feel in our body, how other people are feeling, what others are doing. When we are in response, we are doing our best to accept what we don't like. Because that's one of the keys. Acceptance doesn't mean you have to like it. Acceptance simply means you're not in denial or resistance or judgment of what's arising. And I find that this is at the crux of my work that I do with my clients, is answering the question, how do I accept what I don't like? Well, the truth is, not accepting it doesn't make it go away. And in fact, not accepting what's arising only makes our reaction to it bigger, making it harder to manage. So when we can respond to this challenge that we are being called upon, it also requires us to face ourselves. Because even though I have said for years that I think mindfulness is the answer to everything, what mindfulness does is it forces us, or I guess invites us, I guess force would be one way of looking at it, but mindfulness is asking us to slow down, to be with what is, to not accept what is, and through that acceptance and slowing down, we have an easier time getting through whatever's arising. So here's the biggest challenge. For some people, that slowing down and that self-reflection and the being with what is, and most importantly, being with themselves, is an extension of an existing practice, or is a beautiful invitation for something they've been wanting to do. And now they can no longer say they don't have time to do. But here's where I really want to focus on. For many people, they have been staying in reaction to what is for fear of sitting with themselves. For so many people, we rush through our lives. We rush through what's next. We don't allow and honor what we're feeling and thinking because it's just too damn hard. It's too hard to face. It's too hard to be with ourselves. This is where we get people who can't commit in relationships because they're afraid of intimacy and vulnerability. This is where we get addiction, where we're trying to numb away whatever it is we're feeling. And that addiction can be a variety of different outlets. But whatever our old patterns of defending against what's hard to face, we're really being challenged, because a lot of those typical patterns that we would draw upon to defend against what's hard to face may not be available right now. You can't easily go to your favorite bar before coming home from work and having 3 drinks to numb out the challenge of being at home. You can't easily right now get on a dating app and just, maintain that hookup culture where you can meet lots of people, stay on the surface, physically connect, but not have to emotionally connect. So in this time, I really believe that we're being forced to pay attention to what's arising. We can't run from it right now. So while you may not have the choice in running from it or not, you do have a choice in how you deal with it. So if this has not been your natural tendency, this is something where I invite you to check your mindset. A fixed mindset is the belief I am who I am, and I can't, or I won't, or I don't want to change. A growth mindset is one in which you're open to the possibility of growth. And when I always talk about growth, I'm not talking about a 90% shift. It's even a 1% change, because over time that 1% will continue to grow. So, to come back to this question, how do we sit with ourselves when we've spent a lifetime trying not to be with ourselves because it's too hard? Perhaps you have trauma in your life, and perhaps you have toxic relationships. And I know for many people, they're looking at this shelter in place and quarantining as an opportunity to be at home with their loved ones. And I also acknowledge that for many people, their homes are not a safe place of refuge or of a loving environment. And I know right now the options of what to do with that feel really, really, really limited. So for those who are in homes in which there is toxicity and there's abuse, I do invite you to call upon resources to validate and honor what you're going through. If you've ever needed it before, now would be the time to reach out to a therapist, a counselor, domestic abuse support system. And even though we are more isolated in our homes, I want to remind you that you're not isolated in receiving help. So there's layers of the things that I'm bringing up. So I did just want to mention that if you really are not feeling safe in your home and this shelter in place is increasing abuse and increasing toxicity, that I encourage you to reach out for support to local agencies, to loved ones that, perhaps you could shelter in place with a friend, because safety of both our emotional and physical right now is really important. But for those who have just been running from themselves for fear of being with themselves, this really is an invitation. And if we are calling upon if we're heeding the call from the universe to say, hey guys, something hasn't been working and it's time to shift the way we've been doing it so we can heal ourselves. And we are already seeing the benefits of how we're able to heal our planet right now. So it feels like this collective pattern that has been living on autopilot of chasing what's next, of planning for the future without checking in with the here and now, of looking for that instant gratification, of the Band-Aids to fix the problems rather than looking for the source of the problems. Yeah, I just don't think we can do it anymore. I think that paradigm is going to slowly dissipate because we're just not able to draw upon those same habits, those same patterns of reactivity and denial. So we don't know how to plan for the future right now. Our autopilot has been stopped. Instant gratification, that's been really challenged. We can't just easily run out to Costco and get what we need. We can't easily just go grab a coffee with a friend. So part of this is my hope that through all of these challenges, what will emerge is a deep, deep, deep gratitude for the little things. For talking to the person standing right next to you in line at Safeway, for meeting up with your girlfriends on a Thursday night for a mom's night out, for having a meeting with your coworkers in which you're all in the same room, for being able to go to the gym, go to your favorite yoga class and sweat with the person next to you. All of these normalcies we can shift when life does return to normal, and it will. I hope that we return back to our ways of life with greater awareness, with greater gratitude, with greater compassion for the struggles that we've all gone through, because no one right now is immune from having to slow down and having to be with what is. And so really, I ultimately feel like this is the universe asking us, hey guys, let's all practice some mindfulness. Let's breathe. Let's create the stillness. Let's increase awareness of what's arising and be really intentional in how you choose to respond versus react to it. Because while that first reaction was fear and panic, and understandably, we all ran out, wanted to stock up on food, and if we were lucky, be able to stock up on toilet paper. But that fear and panic can only last for so long. And when we realize that this is a marathon and not a sprint, and we don't know how long our kids are going to be out of school, we don't know how long we're not going to be able to get to our favorite exercise class or have a coffee with a friend or have an in-person meeting with our coworkers. So we really have no choice but to be mindful. And I guess we do have a choice. I'm inviting you to choose mindfulness as the response. So what do we do? How do we do this? Well, just like with any new habit or pattern, we start small. And when we're practicing self-compassion, we recognize that we can dip our toe in the water of this self-reflection, of this self-awareness, of this facing ourselves in a way that maybe we've been trying to deny or resist or ignore in the past. And if we do it slowly at first and we dip our toe in the water, we can pause at that point and we can say, how does it feel to allow my thoughts without pushing them away? How does it feel to acknowledge my emotion? How does it feel to allow the sensations in my body to be there without having to numb them? And if it feels okay for just a moment and we pause and we breathe, we get back into the present moment and we can just allow it. And if it feels overwhelming, we can take our toe back out of the water and say, okay, I did that little step. That was overwhelming and I did it. And if I did it once, I can do it again. So it's baby steps. But just because it's hard to lean in to this anxiety or angst or fear doesn't mean you can't do it. This is why it's called a practice. And for some who are feeling like, well, what is this going to do for me? Well, when we can have the ability to slow down and be with what is, we realize just how much we can heal our own pain, because so much of our pain is in reaction to trying to push away what's there. And this is really what the Buddha discovered, that we can decrease our suffering because we increase our suffering when we're trying to deny and ignore what's happening, right? Because the key is to be in the present moment. Well, when it's hard to be in the present moment, we push it away. Where do we go? Well, we wander to the past where we ruminate, or we wander to the future where we get fear and anxiety of the what ifs and the unknowns. So it's being with what is. And I have a lot of tools in how I'm helping guide people through this. And I have a couple of meditations up on my website, but I'm going to put a link in the show notes to a body scan meditation that you can download. This is all for free. A body scan is a way of putting your mind into your body as a tool for relaxing the body and calming the mind. This is a really great practice to do at night before going to bed, especially because we can stay pretty distracted during the day, but at night our minds tend to ramp up and the thoughts start to take over and it can disrupt our sleep. If our sleep is getting disrupted, it can affect our ability to be with what is. We can get more reactive. We can get more angry or in denial and frustrated. And most importantly, with the lack of sleep, we're decreasing our immune system. So this body scan meditation is a wonderful tool to practice at night. I also have my Journey Forward Facebook group, in which I am posting daily meditations and daily videos in addition to the meditations, and a lot of practices in how to manage all that's arising right now. So I really want to be in service of providing these resources. And I also want to acknowledge that not everyone is feeling really stuck right now, right? This is the other side of it. For some people, this is the gift of time that they've been waiting for. For some, it's like the staycation that we've always said of just one day I could just be at home and get to the things that I never had the time I wanted to get done, or doing things that we always said we wanted, but for some reason became low on our important list, like playing board games with your kids, especially your teenagers that you have now needed to draw upon some new creative ways of all being together. Or now you have time to get to that stack of books on your nightstand, or actually sit and talk with the people in your home face to face. And, this whole idea of social isolation that we're talking about, social distancing, I guess is the correct word, the social distancing. I really think the key here is not about social distancing, but physical distancing, because we can still stay connected socially. They're not saying disconnect from our social groups. We just can't do it in person. So what does that look like? Well, it's been amazing. My teenagers, I'm seeing them actually FaceTime their friends instead of just Snapchat them or text them. Getting back to face-to-face connection, even if it's through digital devices, it's still face-to-face. Make eye contact with someone, smile at them. In fact, I have another offering of another way that I'm doing this is I recently started offering through my office, and now it's going to be done virtually, is an evening for, I've been designing it for groups of women, but I suppose it could be for anybody, but I'm calling it Wind Down. And I'm going to spell it for you so you can really understand the point of it. It's WINE', Wind Down. And my idea with Wind Down is to get together with groups of friends, and I will utilize a mindful eating practice in how we slow down and connect with our senses to connect with what we're doing. But it's going to be with the small glass of wine, because I know that so many of us use that glass of wine at the end of the day to just relax and calm down and release whatever has been holding on us throughout the day. And to guide a mindfulness practice around utilizing our senses and drinking a glass of wine, and then creating a conversation around managing our stress and anxieties and what's overwhelming. So I'll put all these links in the show notes because these are things that we could still do virtually. So again, even though we're being asked for social distancing, I think the answer here is physical distancing and being really creative in the ways to stay social during our shelter in place. Another thing I want to acknowledge of another area that I know is coming up for many people is the challenge of being with your kids all the time. I mean, this is, something that we usually see parents struggle with towards the end of summer vacation, right? Like the beginning of it's really nice. At the beginning of summer vacation, we're relieved of having to get everyone out the door, of having to make lunches, of having to carpool. And then by the middle till the end of summer, parents are like, oh my God, I'm so over this. I need to get back to routine. I need to get back to structure. My kids are driving me nuts. So here we have this situation where there's this early onset of what feels like a summer vacation without school being in session. And maybe in the beginning, in this first weeks, it feels like that vacation and that, oh, so nice, I don't have to get anything done. But I want to remind you that this is an opportunity for a couple of things. One, we got to stay within our routines. And I've been encouraging people to not sleep in, to get up, to make your bed, to still get dressed, put on clothes, do your hair, do your makeup, brush your teeth, whatever it is to maintain patterns of normalcy when it comes not just to personal hygiene, because really, I mean, if no one's there to smell your breath, do you really need to brush your teeth in the morning? And the answer is yes, I really believe you do. And with this sense of normalcy, we're also going to help ourselves from falling into a depression, because we get depressed when we feel we have no purpose. And we get depressed when we feel that there's no hope. And despite the unknowns that are arising within all of us and around us, we need to maintain what we can control. So one aspect of this is, maintaining those structures within your home and within your own personal hygiene. But back to the piece around having your kids at home all day, we are really being called upon, and especially for kids who are doing online schooling right now, this huge challenge of having to now all of a sudden be a full-time stay-at-home parent and to potentially be a teacher and a babysitter, and for many of us, still hold a job. And this is a really daunting task. So again, I don't say this, just conveniently or just out of habit, but I really believe that mindfulness is the response in how we're managing these challenges. And the key with our kids is they are going to take our cue. They are going to be the ones who are going to respond to how we're responding. So if we are getting frustrated and irritated, guess what's going to happen with them? They will likely do the same. And perhaps you guys recall when I was on TV a few months ago talking about how to speak to kids about the California wildfires. Well, I'm going to put this link in the show notes as well, because part of the key here is being really mindful of our communication with our kids. If you were to say to someone, calm down, don't freak out, don't worry, what's the last thing they're going to do? Is actually calm down or not just freak out or not worry just because you told them to. So the key here is to role model how to manage through these challenges. And a lot of this is brand new to you guys. To many people, we don't know how to do this. So this is why I really want to provide tools and resources in allowing, acknowledging, and communicating to not just our kids, but to who's around us. And, with our employers and our coworkers and our work, this is a time that we really have to be able to practice self-compassion for what we expect to get accomplished, because we know when we're anxious and fearful and scared, productivity goes down. So we've got to be really compassionate about what we can get done and notice that there's many of those roadblocks might be our thoughts and our emotions. So to just give you guys some brief tools, I want to remind you to breathe. Breathing will calm the brain, it will calm the body, it will get you back into the present moment. It will help you allow and accept what's arising. It'll bring your attention back to the here and now when it wanders to the past or wanders to the future. That key of allowing and accepting. Remember, you don't have to like it, you just have to accept it because it's what's here. The more you're in denial, resistance, or judgment, the more your reactivity, the more your emotions will take over, the harder it's going to be. And remember, the most constant thing is change. So just as we saw our sense of normalcy isn't permanent, this too is not permanent either. We will get through this. I want to remind you that you have a 100% success rate of getting through everything you never thought you could. And we will also get through this. And the more you can go with the flow on the tides of change, the more resilient you'll be in dealing with what's out of your control. I want to remind you to choose compassion over judgment. As soon as you're back in judgment, why me, why this, why now, whatever that judgment is, it's going to keep you stuck. Compassion allows you to get out of that cycle of reactivity when you can be more kind to yourself and almost more importantly, kindness towards others. So I hope you found this helpful. I will continue to provide tools and conversation around all of this. So again, check out the body scan meditation. Check out the link to join my Journey Forward Facebook group where I'm doing daily videos and tools and creating community around how to manage through all of this. Be sure to listen to that news clip that I'll have in the show notes if you want to learn how to talk to not just your kids, but the people around you around what I call disaster anxiety. And remember, we're being called upon to slow down. And I know for many of us, that's one of the things that we've been in resistance the most. And we can still do it. So sending all of you lots of love, lots of compassion, lots of healing and health. And I really, if this episode spoke to you, please share it with others. We all need the tools right now. We all have the opportunity to come together in common humanity and really grow from this. And this is my wish for all of us. So be well, be healthy, and I will look forward to continuing the journey forward with you.
To continue your journey forward, find Jory Rose on Facebook and Instagram to become part of her growing community. You can also gain access to her meditations, books, online classes, or to sign up for an upcoming retreat. Visit her at joryrose.com. That's JOREEROSE.com.